Banking. Pretty boring, right? Well, meet a bunch of people who changed that on a kitchen table in Vienna. So tell me, Boris, how did people react to the idea of a common table?
They all told us it won't work. They all told us, are you crazy? They all said, it will never work. You will never get them on one table, right?
So it was actually the first time when I sat down on this table where I had the feeling, this is how I would like the campus to be.
In a way, it was a bit like a playground.
We were pitching, we were voting, we were discussing, we were criticizing.
Everything was very loud and very noisy. You have to fight with your Italian boss shouting, hearing it all over the office.
In 2012, the Erste group started something they called the Hub to work on the development of digital banking innovations. The newly found division was given an office downtown, but they weren't entirely happy with the place.
I received a phone call from Boris, and he told me that he wants to have a kitchen.
Sorry. A place where we could organize an honest, open kind of conversation.
We are still very proud of that request. It shows the difference of what we wanted to do in my opinion.
This quote on the wall where it says, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
Like, it was pretty funny there. Like, it was much more chaotic, a little bit more vibrant. People went a little bit more crazy than they do now.
Stop it, do it. I mean, you're talking shit.
Thanking everyone. There was always a bit of a concern.
If you don't manage, we're fucked.
What are these guys doing?
Sometimes it's not so easy. And once sitting on the table, we said, if we really mean it serious with taking the bank into the 21st century, we have to touch the online banking.
Sounds pretty challenging.
No, it was a piece of cake. No, of course not.
I knew that the bank has just launched their new version of the system, of the online banking system. They will not have taken it very nicely.
George was something that we wanted to figure out for ourselves first. And that's one of the missions of the Hub, to actually try out things. So doing as a way of thinking.
So we wanted to make sure that people will call this project in a different way and it would not mix it up with the development of the old system.
So we tried to call it differently. We gave it a name.
The unofficial story is that Boris basically just walked by and said, call it George or Rico. And nobody in the team liked Rico because it sounded like one of those penguins from Madagascar.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know,
okay, that's it. And we took the name. And so Boris organized a dinner again, back to the table. I remember we had some very good wine. And the key of the dinner was to ask the CEO to log in into his George and transfer money out.
The afternoon before, we found out we have some major bugs.
Was a horror situation.
So I sat together with the developer and we tried to fix it.
And after, I remember it was like not more than 2 or 3 seconds, the phone of the CEO vibrates and the notification that money arrived was there.
It was extremely exciting. I was extremely tired after that, but it was super, super cool.
From that moment on, everything got more complicated because now it was a matter of delivering.
There was a lot of stuff that we didn't get right the first time. And there was a lot of people who said, like, this doesn't make any sense, right?
It's too colorful, it's too easy, it's not professional enough.
But what stunned me a lot was that even in the bad feedbacks, they still referred to George as a person.
That always amazes me because in the end it's a piece of software. But that name gave an online banking software a life of its own.
This wouldn't have been us if we would have spent millions on research. This is much more, at the end of the day, I think it's much more a very good mirror on how we are working from time to time.
Everything we design in George has to fulfill 3 conditions. It has to be as easy, intelligent, and personal as possible.
And I think what sets George apart is that we really took a fresh look at it.
Your experience in George starts with the dashboard. There you see a beautiful presentation of all your products, accounts, cards, and so on. You can give each account a color, an image, and a name. You can even change the size depending if you want to have more or less information. You can reorder them, group them, hide them, and much more. You can even choose between a smart card and a list view. Whatever we do in George, we want to make the experience as personal as possible just for you.
You can search for amounts, you can search for vendors or merchants, you can search for a time frame like all transactions of last quarter. That's really one of the biggest cornerstones of our new user experience in George.
People should understand the product they have. And it's our job to make sure that they understand them. And even when we are talking about transaction, people should see the transaction they are doing. That's why we are placing logos next to transaction for merchants.
I see. And what is the so-called plugin system?
Everybody with a good idea will be able to build their stuff integrated into the George and reach our millions of customers on 7 markets that we have.
The plugin architecture of George I think is what makes it really different than everything else out there. There are 2 examples of plugins. There are 2 plugins which I believe they are brilliant and actually show very much the capability and the potential of that technology we have built. The first one is Snapshot. We are aggregating information across all your account, cards, etc. and visualize them into one smart and engaging interface. We are showing our customer how they spend their money, where, when, and for what. You see the progress of your balance, your most expensive day and week, your top merchant, and much more. The second plugin is George Multi-Banking. Imagine you have an account with another bank and you want to seamlessly integrate it into George. George gives you the control over all your finances, no matter where your accounts are located.
The design never ever stops. Like we continuously try just to improve George as much as we can.
Currently, if we keep in focusing on George, focus to work hard on it, with all this easiness and happiness in our faces, I do not see a limit yet.
The future of George and the hub is going to be, let me think. Can I have a second to think about what should be?
Edith, mir fällt jetzt gerade nichts ein.
I think the future of George and the hub is going to be bold and big.
Everyone should know who George is.
You have to be quick in how you react, what kind of technologies you include, how you work with them, and how you're able to adapt yourself all the time in a changing market, right?
You cannot be entrepreneurial in the beginning and say, I did it. You gotta be entrepreneurial permanently. That's why we need the people that we have, and we probably will need a lot more of them.
I don't know, sorry.
10 out of 10.
Vielleicht haben wir ja super, kann ich leicht wegmachen.
Ja.
Welcome.
Völlig natürlich.